This is a message mainly for me, but I also may share it with the rest of the world, I guess. Welcome to my car. I'm just doing a recording inside of it. Um, because the thought struck me now. Um, so there's something called derealization, and there's another thing called depersonalization. And without getting too into the weeds on it, they both represent some degree of feeling like you're not real, of feeling off in your body, or feeling like you're not yourself. And for some people, it's like really extreme where they feel like completely not in their body or completely not who they really are. And for me, I've had it to varying degrees. I've certainly had enough of it to not want any more of it. I don't feel the need to go down that road and prove that I'm tough. There's people that are dealing with things that I don't ever want to deal with. I've I've suffered enough to know I don't want to feel more of it. But I had a interesting thought about it, and it's not even my own thought at all. Um, it's just me reiterating something that I read. I do think that I had this thought on my own a while ago, but I wasn't able to put it into words. But then I read this I did not read the whole thing, but I read most of this extremely long letter that somebody wrote to themselves about depersonalization and derealization. And at the end, there's one final thing that they want themselves to take away from the letter, and that final thing is essentially that without fear or without anxiety, this condition doesn't really exist anymore, at least not in the same way. And I really believe that's true. At first, the logical part of my brain wanted to argue it because I think, well, panic for me is anxiety plus DP/DR, which is depersonalization, derealization, which feels accurate, except for if we look at the terms depersonalization and derealization, um, it's just kind of negative, right? Like nobody who is experiencing a lack of attachment to themselves in a positive way is calling it depersonalization or derealization. They would call it transcending the ego, or having an experience where they're connected to everything, maybe like they're taking a lot of drugs. I don't know. But the actual like words for this, for depersonalization and derealization, have a very negative context to them. And the truth of the matter is that whether it's anxiety or depression, although it's usually anxiety, there's some negative thing that is calling attention to the way that you feel. So if you feel not connected to yourself or your body or reality, there's something that is interpreting that in a negative way. And if you're like me, there's a lot of cascade of thoughts that go along with that. Like, am I going to feel this way forever? How many times have I lost myself? Am I beyond repair now? Things like that. And it's weird, but I think that the answer is to accept it and to just stop caring. Like, stop giving a shit. And I know that that seems counterintuitive, and that seems like you're giving in, and that seems like you might, lose yourself or whatever. But really, what you're doing is you're saying I don't care about all the anxiety or the negativity associated with this feeling. Yes, I feel this way. But no, it doesn't mean anything specifically. Like, it doesn't mean that I'm not actually myself. It doesn't mean that I'm not actually real. It doesn't mean that I'm not breathing and walking around and having interactions with people. I might feel that way, and it really does feel that way, and it feels horrible, but it's not. The condition itself is sort of unreal, because it's saying that, like, you know, we feel like things aren't real. We feel like we aren't ourselves, but that's not reality. The reality is something else. And so if you remove the negativity or the anxiety or the depression, whatever is attached to this feeling, then you just don't care. Then you're just sort of blissed out, I guess. Not necessarily. I think you're just existing then. But this condition ceases to manifest fully if you acknowledge that. And so I think that that's where to start for me when I'm trying to fix it, is not focusing on how I don't feel real, or focusing on, am I in my body? Am I connected to my body? Do I feel real? Do I feel good in this moment? And not constantly obsessively checking that, but instead understanding that anxiety is what is creating this. And that is more of the general direction to focus on. I am not a therapist. I am not a clinician. I am not anything. I'm not anybody qualified to talk about this, except for that, by my own estimation, I have experienced this phenomenon to an uncomfortable degree. So I hope this helps somebody. I don't know. It's just a thought. Maybe it's not accurate for you, but it's just a thought that I have that feels right for me.